Goodman and Company show. Great to be here and wonderful as always to be joined by America's criminologist, Dr. Currie Myers. Dr. Myers, how are you this fine evening, sir?
I'm awesome. It's a beautiful, hot and humid Kansas night, but the wind's blowing, so that makes it halfway okay.
Yeah, get a little bit of relief. All right. Well, many years ago, when I was very early in having my own public relations business, I represented a company called TeenSafe. And what they did is they did an interactive learning to drive program for teenagers. And this was something that, it was at the time innovative for, what it was. It would be thought of as very clunky today, sort of interactive on the TV, and then you go to the workbook and then the computer. And anyway, but it was all centered around the fact that teenagers are lousy drivers. And I'll never forget, they always focused very heavily, because he was subsidized by an insurance company, around the deadliest driving days of the year, which are historically right around the 4th of July. Every 4th of July, there's a big spike in traffic accidents. And as well, there's a big spike in pedestrian deaths. And by the way, pedestrian deaths keep rising every year. You would think modern technology, brighter lights, better streets, what you would think we would be evolving, and incidents like this would get better, but no, they're getting worse. And so the Pedestrian Safety Institute, in association with Maglite, I've got this press release in front of me here, sent out a press release about this. Pedestrian deaths continue to increase unabated year after year. A pedestrian is killed every 75 minutes in the USA, according to Governor's Highway Safety Administration. And my understanding is you work with these folks at the Pedestrian Safety Institute.
Yeah, it's a great organization. They have really highlighted, along with research with the governor's work, has been extremely important in understanding the numbers and the research associated with pedestrian safety. This goes back to my original career. I started out as a state trooper, and we were all about safety, traffic safety. And so when I wasn't out enforcing the laws and arresting drunk drivers and working accidents, I was speaking at events on pedestrian safety, traffic safety. And unfortunately, there were many times we had to work accidents that involved first responders that were run over. I've worked my fair share of police officers and firefighters and EMS workers that have been run over, and construction workers that have been run over when they've been out working and walking. And there is a nexus, quite frankly, between bad economic conditions and high gas prices, and more people are walking to work, and especially in lower level employment opportunities. We're seeing more of that, where more people are giving up their cars. We're seeing kids today. There are kids today that are not getting driver's license as early as, when you and I were young, the first thing we want was associated with was driving a car. I was driving a car. I lived in a rural area, but 14, I was driving back and forth to work and school, had my own car, and it was linked to freedom. Well, we have kids today that are not interested in driving. In fact, some of them are not getting licenses until 17 or 18, if they're getting them at all, especially in the urban area, which means they're walking more. We're seeing more people running. Bicycles are another one. Sometimes you look pedestrian safety, but bicycles are similar because
they're considered pedestrian.
Yeah. So they're on bike paths, and we're having a lot of accidents involving the increase of bike usage. And the key is nighttime. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of the accidents and the fatalities that occur in pedestrian deaths are associated with dawn to dusk. And that's when it's in the summer. That's when it's cooler out, and you start getting out late. And then the main issues are people can't see you and they're distracted, and we're not practicing situational awareness like we used to do. We have iPods and we have phones that are in front of us, and we're walking into things and we're walking into the street and we're not paying attention to where we are situationally aware. There are, in urban areas and in rural areas combined, there's a lack of sidewalks. And when you have a lack of sidewalks, you're really going to be running into more traffic opportunities and hazards. So there's a lot of opportunities for improvement, I call it, in this. And I think it's really about awareness. And that's why this group has done something so important. And again, the Governor's Highway Safety Association has done a lot of research.
And of course, Maglite is a major sponsor and funder of the Pedestrian Safety Institute, because that connection between darkness and death.
Right.
Like you said, north of 70% of pedestrian fatalities happen at night, and it's all because you can't be seen. So, some of the things that are said here in terms of Pedestrian Safety Institute points is have a light source, wear reflective clothing, cross at crosswalks, try to walk in lighted areas, stay on the sidewalk. If your vehicle is disabled, make sure that you put a light source behind it. And by the way, Maglite has great wands that you can put on the end of a powerful flashlight like this. And it turns it into a flare, so that, just like the guys at the airport. And then there are smaller ones. And then there are roadside safety packs that Maglite makes that are designed specifically to go in your vehicle and be safety. Look, every year on 4th of July, the beaches in Washington State, where I have a home by the beach, are considered part of the highway system. And fireworks are allowed on the beaches on 3rd, 4th of July. You can't imagine a town like Ocean Shores, population less than 10,000, will have 140, 150,000 people in town for 4th of July. And they all drive down, park at the beach, and wait till darkness and shoot all their fireworks off. Well, imagine what it's like getting out of there at midnight.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of people that unfortunately get struck because there's no light on the beach. It's chaos. There's not enough, you can't have enough staff to direct people. And so it's the same thing everywhere. I remember going to 4th of July, Lake Tahoe years ago. We used to go there quite a bit because a friend of mine had a house there. And there's one road that goes around the lake in Lake Tahoe. Cars are going 60 miles an hour on that road. People are crossing that road late at night on 4th of July, going back to their cabins, and there's no light source. So this is why the 4th of July, particularly dangerous. And of course, the point that you made, according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, 114 law enforcement officers were struck and killed while out of their vehicles during the 10-year period ending in 2020. Way too many, which is why a lot of the states have passed these move over and slow down laws, where if you see an officer by the side of the road, somebody's pulled somebody over or picking up debris or whatever they're doing, you're required by law to move over a lane and slow down. And I'm always amazed when I see people not do it. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. Bottom line for us, Dr. Myers, how big of a problem is this?
Well, it's huge. It's what they cite, nearly 8,000 deaths a year that are occurring.
One every 75 minutes of a pedestrian.
Yeah. And so that's huge. And here's something that we may not think of as far as a nexus sometimes, but the amount of homeless people and people on the street that are occurring because we're not enforcing some of the vagrancy laws, and we have aggressive panhandlers. How many times have you pulled into an intersection where they come out and they're aggressive, they want money, and they're right out in the middle of the street, and then they go back to that little concrete section that's in between the streets,
Well,
and we
I've seen them walk across the street against lights.
Oh yeah, they don't, jaywalking no longer is a law. I mean, it is, but we don't enforce it. And I don't, there was somebody that darted out in front of me today and could care less. They were jaywalking down the middle of a busy city street, and they didn't care. So some of this people bring on themselves, but I've had the unfortunate accident. I have struck somebody who was illegally jaywalking, walked across when I was a state trooper even, and didn't see him, and they walked out right in the middle of it, and they survived, but I struck them at about 25 miles an hour. So it happens to everybody. It happens even to law enforcement officers that are out there, but we have people that are on the street that should not be on the street or close to the street. And we didn't used to have this problem because we used to do what? We used to enforce the law. We used to enforce jaywalking. We used to, now there's a fine line. You don't want to go crazy with it, but if things get out of control, you can enforce jaywalking statutes. The same way with walking on the street. If there's a sidewalk, there's no reason to get on the street if there's a sidewalk there. So there's so many different things you can do. Bicycles now, there's so many bicyclists, especially you get the weekends where they're out. I've seen them out on on lonely 2-lane highways in the middle of rural America at night, and they're not wearing the proper lighting.
Reflective clothing, they don't have a light source, all those things.
Yeah, and I have Maglite's travel pack. It's awesome. I mean, I keep it in my car, and it's easy to use and throw on, and there's different things that you can put on that it's, just don't think of lighting as an old traditional flashlight anymore. They've been pretty creative in having.
Oh, there's candle mode and wands, and there's all kinds of different things.
And then different modes of lighting that can occur, flashing at different levels and all that kind of stuff that brings attention. So there are things that can be done, but the volume of people on the road has definitely increased.
Right. Well, Dr. Myers, we're going to leave that there. Again, thanks to Maglite, the Pedestrian Safety Institute. Every year around the 4th of July, the deadliest days of the year, they're calling attention to this, and it's an important problem that people need to be more aware of. Especially, there are way too many law enforcement officers dying as pedestrians, trying to help people with accidents and that sort of thing, and it's just tragic, and it really needs to stop. And there's an easy way to stop it. Pay attention when you're driving, slow down when you see emergency lights, when you see anything that looks unusual as a driver, slow down, take your time, don't drive distracted, don't be texting, and if you're a pedestrian, carry a light source. Make sure you can be seen. All right. Blue Desmond and Company program. Thank you, Dr. Myers, for that.